Well, welcome everyone. Let's see if I can get this audio. That's not good. I see the problem. My word. Let's try this again. What the freak? We're glad you're on. We're trying to get set up on the go-to meeting. Again, having challenges with that. But we'll get going here in a second here. Oh. Let's see here. Let's see if it's going to go. Let's see. All right. Well, at least we have that. That's good. Much better. All right. We got through all the technical stuff here. 1 second, though. Hang on a minute. Oh, I forgot the voltages. I'm on the call already. You see how imperfect the world is. No, how about imperfect I am? I'm glad to have you on the call, and just want to. Oh, there we go. We're hopefully you can hear me okay. Let's see. Just want to make sure that's working all right, and let me see if I can get myself back up in case I need to go to the net. So I want to thank you for being on tonight. Apologize for yesterday not getting to the we were having troubles and couldn't make it to the Wednesday night call. Sometimes a challenge just with what we got going on the plate. Just want to make sure that that you can hear me okay. If you're on the online, you can give me a thumbs up or something there. That'd be good. Okay, cool. That's great. And then we have the go-to meeting. If you want to join us on the go-to meeting, you just go to the DestinationFreedom.org website, and then you can see the links there to get to the go-to meeting. Oh, that's awesome. So a lot's going on, and it's we've been pretty busy with activity and all that stuff. We have certainly a backlog of clients that we're helping and trying to get to them, to get to everybody. We've, as I mentioned before, one of the reasons that we came back to New Hampshire early was because we had some flooding in the office, and so they're doing construction, and I didn't even have an office. Our internet shut down. Ended up having to fire the internet company that we were using, and I haven't gone. I don't even have an internet company yet because we're doing this from the house right now. So those troubles are there, and I'm working with my son. We're connecting with a bunch of different people from around the world. Right now, we have a couple clients that are at consulates in different countries that we're working with. That's been some challenges, which is pretty standard for the kinds of stuff that we do here, and so that's going on, and so the company that we lease our office from, I didn't have a contract at this time because they're doing construction on our new office that's coming along, and wanted me to sign a 3-year lease for the office, and I didn't want to do that. Who knows what the world's going to look like in 3 years, right? Um, so I wanted to do 1 year. They came back and said they do 1 year, which is great, and with some other options to renew and all that. So I have to look at that new contract. So I'm thankful for that and moving things along. Saturday, I'll be traveling south to do some naturalization work in Florida, which I'm excited about, and uh, and who knows how that's going to work out. I'll be working all week, even though I'm away. Part of the week will be that legal work that we'll be doing in the courts, um, and then what else? And then I'll be doing all kinds of office stuff because I'll actually have, instead of being at the house here trying to get work done here, I'll actually have some undivided focus um, where I'm going to be, and that's going to be a joy. So I'm looking forward to that. Hopefully that's going to be successful. We'll be able to catch up on a lot of the stuff that's on our plate. So looking forward to that as well. And so yeah, so we're doing really well, and I'm thankful. So this time I wanted to, and I'll get to your questions. Um, if you come up with a question, you can write it in the chat, and I'll endeavor not to miss it. I'll catch it and I'll make sure that it gets answered. One of the things that I remember talking with a client and some other person this week about doing these processes, and how I've said before that no one is going to take a tax stand while being employed. The whole corporate thing is governmental, okay? And so if you have corporations, you're going to have to shut them down. Everything you do in your personal private capacity is where you're going to secure your rights. Anytime you create a corporation, you're incorporating with some other thing. And if government, you're incorporating with government, they're promising you privileges and immunities, and therefore you'll be subject to taxation or regulation. And so that's why we come out of those places. And certainly the federal government, by way of the tax code, has those obligations as well. So we don't do LLCs or any of that corporate stuff. We stay in the private and personal. And some people struggle with the idea of what we call running your own business. And I've been doing my own business since probably about, I'd say the late 80s, early 90s, somewhere in there. I started working for myself as a window cleaner and developed a high rise window cleaning company. I've never done employees or anything like that. I've always contracted labor, and it's been great. And I think that once you start realizing that you can determine what you make and that you can determine how much time you spend in that, it's a very liberating experience. And if you've never experienced that, and if what you're doing for work feels like a job or you're in the grind, then I invite you out of that mindset to have something different happen for you. And I'm very excited about that and opening up those possibilities. So that always is comes up when I'm talking to people about, what they're doing, and whether when I see people's attitudes towards the concept of senior welfare or Social Security, same thing. Anyway, so people think they're entitled to senior welfare, and because they paid in, like as if everybody doesn't pay taxes, and yet people are addicted to being taken care of by government, and so we want to open up possibilities and show people that they certainly, with very little effort, can match those funds so that they're not in that jurisdiction. Brianna says, can you talk about the 14th Amendment, how it fits into the freedom process and the passport process? Oh, that's a great question. One of the things, and again, you can look these things up for yourself, and you should. Okay. And again, I was talking to somebody today, a libertarian, and we are talking about some of these concepts of the federal government, and I'm all done with the union. And you can talk about all the fantasy addictive relationship that people have with the union flag, and the idea of the union and all that stuff. And so, there a lot of people are, Trump supporters and all that. And, and some level, I don't really care about that. And I don't see that you can send any good person to the cesspool of pedophiles, in the District of Columbia, and think that you're going to have it change. It will not change. You cannot change gangrene. Okay, gangrene has to be cut out, and and if you don't cut it out, it's going to take the whole body. And so, what we have in DC is gangrene. I wouldn't call it draining the swamp. That's kind of a natural thing. It's easy to drain the swamp. It's not so easy to put up with and tolerate gangrene in your body. You got to cut it out. So the idea is when you look at the Constitution, and some people erroneously think of the concept like constitutional rights and things like that. They don't. They may have never read the Constitution, or they don't understand it as a document. The Constitution provides you nothing. I can't even say that the Constitution provides you protections, because the document itself isn't protecting anyone. If men and women do not, those that are in office, do not stake their life, their fortune, and their sacred honor on limiting the federal government only to the federal Constitution, then it won't be upheld. So it doesn't really matter. Okay. So the idea is and when I think about the Constitution and what power the federal government has been given or delegated, I'm saying that the document itself has set up the federal government to be where it's at. And we'll get to the 14th Amendment in just a second. So a simple, overview about the Constitution, there's certain many, articles. In each article deals with a different aspect of the Constitution or the federal government. Article 1 deals with the Congress or the legislature. Article 2 deals with the president or the executive branch. And Article 3 deals with the courts. Okay, that's how the Constitution is set up. So in Article 1, Section 8 lists the power that's been delegated to the United States or the federal government. The name of the federal government is the United States. Okay. So Section 8 defines the power that the federal government has. Okay, that's what it says. So you can look up different things in there and see what power the federal government has been delegated from who? The states, the people. Okay. So one of those clauses in Article 1, Section 8 is, well, let me back up. Before I get to there, I'll go to the 10th Amendment. The 10th, I'm not paraphrase, but the 10th Amendment to the Constitution says, the power not delegated to the United States, that's the federal government, to the United States by the Constitution is reserved to the states or the people, respectively. So that's the 10th Amendment. And the understanding is it's saying that the only power the federal government has is what's listed in Article 1, Section 8, or, there may be other places, but the idea is that that's the only power that it has. Okay. Most of the first amendments to the Constitution, meaning the first 10 amendments of the Bill of Rights, is usually strengthening that idea that and is limitations on the federal government. It doesn't. There's no such thing as your Second Amendment rights. There's no such thing as that. There's Second Amendment limitations of the federal government. The right, what's the right? It's not a right to own guns. That's just stupid. It's not even, the word guns doesn't show up. It's armaments. What armaments? All armaments. The right is your right to defend yourself, your right to life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness. That's what the Second Amendment does. It limits the federal government to not violate your right to life or to defend your freedom, your life, by force if necessary, whatever. So you see, that's the concept. So the power that's been delegated to the federal government is in Article 1, Section 8. One of the powers that's been delegated is in Clause 17. And that says, I'll paraphrase, but that, I could read it. Maybe that's a much better thing to do. Let me see if I can read the Article 1. Okay, let me just see if I can look it up. Article 1, Section 8. Let's see if I can read it. Section 2, Section 1, Section 2, 3, 4, 7, 8. Okay, right. So here's, okay. So listen, this is in Clause Clause 17, okay, of Article 1, Section 8. It says to exercise exclusive legislative, I'm sorry, exclusive legislation in all cases whatsoever, that's pretty broad, over such district not exceeding 10 miles square, as may by session of particular states, that was Virginia and Maryland, and the acceptance of Congress become the seat of the government of the United States. Here it is. And to exercise like authority over all places purchased by the consent of the legislature of the state in which the same shall be for what? Erection of forts, magazines, that's armaments, magazines, arsenals, dockyards, and other needful buildings. And watch this. And to make all laws which shall be necessary and proper for carrying out into execution the foregoing powers, and all other powers vested by this Congress in the government of the United States or in any department or officer thereof. So the idea is the federal government has exclusive legislative authority in all cases whatsoever in their jurisdiction, not in the states, in the 10 square miles, which is District of Columbia. It also would include Guam, Puerto Rico, Virgin Islands, America, Samoa. Those federal territories are included in that jurisdiction. And they have exclusive legislative authority in all cases whatsoever. So understand that. Now, one of the other areas of jurisdiction that they have is the 14th Amendment that creates the statutory or the federal citizen. Okay. And so that amendment to the Constitution says that that United States citizens are citizens subject to the jurisdiction thereof. And so we just read the jurisdiction that is the federal government. So U.S. citizens, that's a federal citizen. We're not talking about citizens of the states. We're talking about federal citizens. And most of the time, you're asked, are you a United States citizen? And many times people will say, yes, 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 because they don't know what that means, because they're not looking up the definition of the term United States. The definition of the term United States in the 14th Amendment, as well as many times you're asked in driver's license, other places, is the District of Columbia. Citizens, 14th Amendment citizens, are citizens subject to the jurisdiction thereof, which is what it says. Okay, so they're included in this. This is why federal laws that govern firearms and immigration and other things are all about the federal citizen or the resident alien. That's the one who's residing, who's not a U.S. citizen, but they reside in the District of Columbia. Now, it's not that they're really residing in the District of Columbia, but they're filling out forms as if they are residing in the District of Columbia when they use the term United States. Okay. This is the crux of everything that we do, is understanding this principle. And so the idea is that once you understand and can see that federal jurisdiction, it opens up for you how to navigate and stay out of that. It's very much like the way Neo, when he finally got up off the ground after he was dead, he stood up in that hallway and he looked down and he could see the matrix. He could see the whole thing alive. And it was at that time when the agents were going to fire upon him that he just, holds his hand up and he just drops. He's in control of the entire matrix in that idea. So that is the pinnacle of the place where Morpheus was telling Neo about how the system works and all that. And Neo asks him, he says, what are you trying to say, that I can dodge bullets? And he says, no, when you're ready, you won't have to. And that's what occurred for Neo in the film, The Matrix. And so that's why many times I'll say to clients and what have you, I would say it's more important for you to understand who has an income tax liability or who has an obligation to file and pay income taxes. It's more important for you to understand who does than that you don't. Because most people who will say like, well, I don't have to pay it, for whatever they're fantasizing about that, even though they may be saying under penalty of perjury in a number of places that they are a citizen of the District of Columbia or the United States as it's defined in the Code of Federal Regulations or the Tax Code, Title 26, and such as that. So it's really powerful when you get that and understand it, um, and um, and so it's kind of cool. The question is you've said I am a United States citizen and I'm not a U.S. citizen. Can you explain it again? Well, yeah, I mean, it's like when I say I am the term U.S. or United States, I am a United States citizen, and yet I'm not a United States citizen. It all depends upon what you mean by the definition of the word United States. If the definition of the term United States is the District of Columbia, then no, I'm not a United States citizen. If the definition of the term United States, like in the Hooven case, the 1945 Hooven, Allison, Evac case, in which definition 3 is the states united under the and by the Constitution, then yes, I am a United States citizen. I'm a citizen of New Hampshire, therefore I am a United States citizen, but I am not a 14th Amendment citizen. We have it in writing from the State Department. They define U.S. citizen by the 14th Amendment. The IRS defines U.S. citizen by the 14th Amendment. There were United States citizens in America before there was a 14th Amendment. Okay. And it wasn't because there was a federal citizen or a statutory citizen. It was because there were state citizens. Because in Article 4, Section 2 of the Constitution says the citizens of the states are entitled to all privileges and immunities of citizens in the several states. That's a state citizen. That's not what creates a state citizen. That's just a reference. And that was in the 1700s. It wasn't until 1868 that you had that statutory or federal citizen. So once you understand that, it's easy to just navigate and say, okay, I'm not a federal citizen. And I'll use that term sometimes. You know, I'm a citizen of my state. I'm not a federal citizen or a 14th Amendment citizen or a citizen of the United States District of Columbia. So anyway, so that's how that is. And that's how the 14th Amendment is tied into that. So it's so this is an opportunity for me to there's Rafael. Thanks for being on the call tonight. I do notice that you had called, and I have I'm due to call you. I have a small long list of I know what the issue is. We've got a timeline for you. I've made some time for that so we can get that work done. We'll probably end up getting it done this weekend. I am traveling on Saturday, or maybe before that, but I haven't forgotten your timeline. I don't want to miss that for you. So anyway, we'll take care of that. I appreciate you being on the call tonight. And again, someone had mentioned I'd like to set up a consultation. Where do we make it? What I would recommend is if you go to the website, the Destination Freedom website, under Council Assistance, you'll see, I think it's, let me see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 7 titles down. It'll say request a private freedom consultation. So you'll have to fill out a hold harmless agreement, get that notarized, scan it back to me, to statecitizen@destinationfreedom.org. And then there's a place for payment. You can go to PayPal. If you want to do PayPal, then be sure to do it as friends and family, not goods and services. That's because of the relationship I have with PayPal. It's a good thing there. Yeah, we'll set up some Saturday. You're at a wedding. Oh, good. You'll be partying. That's good. Oh yeah, I was just going to mention this for whatever it's worth. I'll send out an email, but on Sunday, I've got to pick the time on Sunday, sometime probably late morning, mid or late morning Eastern Standard Time. I'm going to do a call that deals with the prayer website we're setting up. And I'm going to go into explaining all that. I'm also going to do a teaching on prayer and what it is, what it accomplishes, and stuff like that. And I'm gonna talk about why, what it is we're looking for in the prayer website. It's not just a prayer request website. We're praying for freedom specifically, but I'm after some interaction with the Almighty with respect to that. and we're definitely wanting people to pray for freedom, but it's what's coming back from God is what I'm interested in, and the website's designed to have that interaction. And if you'd like to be a part of that, we would love for you to set up. If you join us for an hour or a week or something, and pick a time that works good for you, I would love and covet your interest in praying for freedom in the United States. And I know that's going to affect the world, but if you'd like to be a part of that, we're going to have that website up and running, hopefully sooner than later, and you can schedule your own space for that, and that'll be a lot of fun. So I'll be talking about that on Sunday, and I'll send out an email message for that call, and we'll probably do it as a go-to meeting. I don't know whether we'll do it on YouTube. I'll have to see, but probably not on YouTube, because I'm going to I don't know. I'll have to think about it, because I do need to show my desktop, and I think because I'm doing a video, and so one of the things I can't do on YouTube is show you my desktop. I imagine there's a way, but I'm not tech savvy enough to know how to put all that together and get it all to work. But I'm sure we'll figure it out once we get some people together. Aaron says, I was hoping to hear the process we could expect to go through if we were to engage in your services. Yeah, absolutely. I'll be glad to talk about in order to become a state citizen, not federal, as per the IRS. I'd like to know. Also would like to know the tax implications of this to somebody who has 1099 based income as a self-employed consultant, as passive investment income. Yeah, all that stuff is. I'm glad for your question. And so, with respect to the process, what happens is that most of the time people are filling out paperwork incorrectly because they don't look up terms and see what terms are there. In our state citizenship class, which you can go online under our classes and workshop, you can take our 6-hour class that talks about liberty and freedom, talks about the states, moves into the federal constitution, the tax code, so that you can see the power that the federal government has and its ability to tax and regulate its citizens and resident aliens. Okay. And so the idea of your relationship or the implications of the taxes, you make reference to, you're saying that you have 1099 based income. It isn't really 1099 based income. That's what people think. Okay, it's W-9 based income. Okay, the other corporation doing a 1099 they're doing that because of your empowerment. You see, they ask you they ask you for a tax ID number or social. That's the form W-9. Okay, W-9 is a request for taxpayer ID. Okay, so when you fill that out and you give them your tax number or your TIN or whatever tax number that you have, then you've just signed that you're a federal citizen or a resident alien, and that you're making money in the District of Columbia. Okay, and so you've empowered them and say, hey, please disclose to IRS what we're doing. That's what generates the what we call an informational return of a 1099. They fill out under penalty of perjury that they paid you, who has a tax liability, such and such amount of money, and now the IRS has that information to use against you. That's your own testimony has empowered that. Once you learn this and you'll do things differently, then you'll give them the W-9 that we have that shows you're exempt because you're not a U.S. citizen or resident alien. We go over this in great detail in the class, is showing you that the U.S. citizen, that's the 14th Amendment, federal citizen, and resident aliens have these obligations. And so once you see that, you're going to say, oh, okay, that's not me, or you might determine that it is you or not. You'll understand that. Then you're going to we have proper paperwork for you. When we give a W-9, which shows that you're exempt, you'll be providing a W-8, which is a certificate of foreign status. You're foreign to the District of Columbia, not foreign to America. It's foreign to the District of Columbia, the United States. Okay. And again, you have to understand these terms from the tax code. Okay. And we do this and cover this in the class. You also make reference to yourself as self-employed. There's no such thing as that. The only way that self-employed is there is if you own the company and are the employer and you're an employee as well on some level. Okay. But self-employed usually means I work for myself. Because if you're not an employer, you have other employees, and or if you're not an employee, then there's no such thing as self-employed. That's just crazy talk. But that is a common thing that people say, and I know what they mean, but they're not really saying what they mean. Um, and of course, you're talking about passive investment income. Of course, you have paperwork that's showing that you have those tax liabilities and what have you. Um, I'll be right with you, Toby. Um, I'll get to your. You do have another question about scheduling. You can mute yourself, or did you want to ask a question? I'll get to the rest of these. Toby, all right. He may not. I'll mute him. All right, there we go. All right. So if you have a question, Toby, you can either raise your hand on there or something. I'll be glad to. Okay. So on YouTube, it says as a resident alien, when we have completed the revocation election, does it cease your obligation to pay both federal and state taxes? I don't recommend revocation of election. It's a bad remedy. If you want to risk the IRS charging you $5,000 for a frivolous return, then you can try that out and see if that works for you. But there's no need for a revocation of election because I'm asserting that you have never chosen or elected to be a federal citizen and have those obligations. And many people that are doing that may be employed or doing certain things in which they're saying they're a federal citizen, even though, and they may even be paying into Social Security, and revocation election doesn't even deal with that. So revocation election does not deal with jurisdiction. Okay. And even though you may be successful in one area, you've not changed that obligation. And the IRS will ultimately be the one to determine whether that's viable for you. So I don't recommend the revocation election. Someone says, if I take the 6-hour course and begin filling out paperwork, there's no paperwork with the 6-hour course. And you don't have to have a hold harmless agreement with the state citizenship class. It's available to anybody who wants to sign up for it. And we do, we can do a PayPal transaction for credit card. We do take Venmo, but you'll have to call me for that. If you want to request a phone call in that capacity, you can just email us at statecitizen@DestinationFreedom.org. And then, and also we take cryptocurrency, and then we also will take gold and silver, if that works for you. Cash, we'll do cash through the mail if you'd like. But the person says, begin fill out paperwork. There's no paperwork on it. Solo. Oh, you're talking about then if you want to do the passport workshop, that would follow up after the class, of course. And it says, do I have the ability to still call for help from? You always have an opportunity that you can reach out if you have questions during the passport process. We definitely want to give you that support. Or a rep if I get hung up on. Yeah, any part of the course, if you want to add a service, or having us fill out your forms, or if you want us to, you get a letter back from the State Department, you don't know how to answer it, you want us to do that. On the website, we'll show you those extra fees that you can pay to have us help you in any part along the way. And if you've signed up for the workshop and you want to ask questions, you can ask it here, or you can just reach out and we'll be glad to set up a quick phone call to get your questions answered. But generally speaking, with the full passport process, there's a lot of hand holding, a lot of phone call stuff. So that's just part of that. Where do we start to claim our proper status? Well, you can start anywhere you like. You may have already begin it just because of what you're doing. But for us to make sure that people are doing the right way, we want people to take the class. If you do the full passport process, then the class is included in that cost. And so we set that up and work that out. So once you begin the full passport process, you have access to the class, and we do require that you take it in order to get into anything else that we're doing. But the passport process is the beginning place for that work. So anyway, that's how you get into that. Just checking out the process and the passport process. That's good. Yes, thanks, Lawrence and Wendy. I saw your message, and I'm preparing your stuff. Um, you're at the top of our list right now, so you can expect that email with your stuff. So we've had a backlog, and I know you're waiting. So thank you for your patience, and we'll probably have that for you before or by the weekend here. And then at that point, once I email you the documents, we'll set up a phone call and go over them. It'll take probably with the two of you, it'll be about a couple hours for that. Um, but I do have you. We are working on your stuff already, so that's cool. Duck says, "Have you gotten my messages?" I don't know if I've gotten your message, Duck. I don't. I have other people that check messages and things like that. We do have a backlog. We won't miss you. We have. There's a contact us on our website, and we get probably um, 50 messages every single day that we have to work through. And some of them are um, bots, and, we ferret through a bunch of stuff. Some of them require me to make phone calls and all. That takes an awful lot of time, especially when people want to talk about their situation. So we are plugging away at that. We're in a weird place right now because we're all of my office is packed together into the old office that they're doing construction in the building. We should be in the new office by June 1st or before June 1st. And we're looking for an assistant, the office assistant here in our office in New Hampshire. So we're not going to do that job remotely. So if you live in New Hampshire and you would like to work with us, then we'd like to work with you. And anybody that works with us will help them do these processes as part of being working with us. So there wouldn't be any cost to that other than what they send to the feds. But all of the logistics we want are the people that are working for us to do that same thing. So just want to let you know that's so if you hadn't thought about moving to New Hampshire, this is a great time to do that, and you have a job. Don't really call it a job in the sense of like, it's not employment. It's a contract, and there'll be expectations, and we're really flexible, and we really like to work with people. So anyway, that's available. Aaron says, I understand from your answer on the 1099 question to mean that you can use a W-8 to change your standing and thereby stop a 1099 from being issued. No, it's the W-9 that does that. And the W-9 is what's exempt. The W-8 is what's supporting the W-9. And that is the W-8 that we have. There are no W-8s that the IRS creates that bring you outside their jurisdiction. Why would they have paperwork that doesn't affect them? It doesn't. All of their paperwork is designed to be in these systems, and that's there. So you can't control whether that other person or party is going to file a 1099. Now, you don't qualify for 1099, and you're not requesting that they do that. So they don't need to do a 1099 on your behalf. Okay. That's what the W-9 does, is empowers the 1099. So you're going to have a correct W-9. Is there a similar mechanism available that would use to stop the issuance of 1099-B? I know of nothing other than what has empowered those things. That's what you got to stop. And so I know of no other thing. Move away and live in the jungle. No, it's you are the one that's empowered the 1099. And you're not in control of whether they decide that they want to do it anyway. But sometimes they'll fill out a 1099 without a social security number on it. Now, most of the time, these companies are doing this stuff online. So if they don't have a social security number from you, they won't be able to do a 1099 online without a social security number or tax ID, which is good. Usually the response we get from those companies will say, well, then I won't do a 1099, which is exactly the right thing if they're doing online. Used to be they could fill out forms and then they would do them manually. They're trying to move away from that. Blockchain AI says, after receiving the updated passport, you're not receiving an updated passport. How can we verify the change of the status? as a non-resident alien. And again, you're not. It is true that you would be a non-resident alien, but that's not the status. Okay, that would be the way the IRS may look at you if that's how you're communicating with the IRS. And it's got nothing to do with the passport that the federal government issues. It has to do with your application. The IRS uses passport applications in court to establish federal citizenship or United States citizenship. The passport application is your own testimony under penalty of perjury of what is true and correct. After you do the passport process, which either the full passport process that we do or the passport workshop, we do a FOIA request, a Freedom of Information Act request, in which you will write to the Secretary of State, Secretary of the State Department, and they'll do a FOIA request for the passport file. When you get those certified by the Secretary of the United States, there'll be a wet ink signature. Then you'll have certified documents that you could use in court if you needed to. But that is what, just like the way IRS would use your signature on a DS-11 against you establishing your federal citizenship, your documents would do the opposite. We've never had to use them in court because we know how to navigate and stay out of the federal zone with not having any problems with IRS. But that's what you'd be after, is the certified documents. It's not the passport itself. Okay, that's just easy. If you qualify for a passport by being born in the States or to American parents abroad, or naturalized, then you'll get a passport. It's not a problem. Yes, New Hampshire is in the Eastern Standard Time. Let's see, so that's cool. And Toby, if or somebody was looking to reach out on scheduling a phone call, yeah, you can just do that. If you make that request at statecitizen@destinationfreedom.org, we'll be glad to follow up and get on the phone or whatever. If you need to schedule a consultation, then you can go to the website and do that as well. One good thing at some point is we have somebody who's helping us with our prayer website, and so we're looking to do a number of things online. Some of them are unrelated to this work, but so we have a good web developer. We are going to update the Destination Freedom website. We are going to make it extremely user friendly. It's going to become attractive and elegant. This website is based upon what I needed and not based upon that anybody's a good designer. This is just utilitarian type of website, I'm sorry to say. But there's some unique things that we have to do because we stay outside the federal zone with respect to money on the website. We can't always automate things the way they do because one is it'll cost more to add PayPal to the budget. They'll be taking a piece of that. And also, it would end up putting PayPal in a place of sending IRS 24% because of our foreign status. So that's why we do what we do with PayPal, so that we can be congruent with the tax code and all that. Do I advise clients to put their Social Security number on the DS-11 application? We don't advise clients at all. We, in our workshop, we go over that precisely. We have never put a Social Security number on a passport application ever in the 25 years I've been doing this work. So earlier, back when I first started doing this, we used to put zeros, but then we noticed that the State Department was relying upon the Justice Department to follow up people with perjury. That was the problem that Copper Moonshine had, was that they were putting zeros, and the Justice Department was pursuing them for perjury. So the only people that would put zeros on the application would be like children or no one who's been issued a Social Security number. If you've ever been issued a Social Security number, you have to provide Social Security number. Now, we provide a Social Security number in our explanatory statement. So that's how we provide it. And that's why we do that, so that the explanatory statement will remain in the record, because they take it in a different way. So they end up writing the Social Security number on the bottom of page 2, and it's not at the top where they do that. But that's not in your control what they do. So no, and we have a whole caveat in in the explanatory statement that deals with Social Security and those obligations and things like that. So we handle all of that in the explanatory statement, which is a 10-page explanatory statement. 4 pages are an affidavit, and 6 other pages support the affidavit for our clients. So hope that makes sense. Want to make sure that let's see what we got there. That we make sure that we answer everybody's question here. Did I miss anybody's question back here? Hopefully that was helpful. I did want to mention with respect to the full passport process and the passport workshop, both of those processes, and of course the workshop is less expensive, but both of those processes include all our other workshops, the alignment workshop, W8 and W9, IRS 1445, and of course the state citizenship class is required for the passport workshop, but for the full passport process, it's included in that cost. You won't be able to get into the other workshops unless you take the class. So you have to take the state citizenship class ultimately in doing our stuff. So that's why we've done it. We've created these bundles for the clients. It says, so you give your social security number in the affidavit. They will not do the passport process unless you provide social. Okay. We used to withhold it, and they would stop the process and send your stuff back and say, reapply some other time. That was a common thing. So we used to provide it in a separate letter, and then we found that the separate letter would get into the record and not the other explanatory statement. So we started providing social in the explanatory statement. That's how they get there. Says, and if you never put the SSN on the DS11 and you don't put all zeros in, what do you do to put in the Social Security box? Yeah, it's just like, yeah, I'm just not gonna. This isn't a class on how to fill out the passport and do all that stuff there. I'd be glad to answer your questions and all that stuff, but I'm not gonna. I don't know who's on this call and who's here and all that stuff, and so I'm not going to be giving out information that we do in our classes and stuff like that when I have hold harmless agreements from people and all that, because I'm not giving out advice on how to do these processes, because I don't know who you are or what you're doing. I mean, I know Brian, you've been on there before, but it says, if you never put out Social Security on DS11 and you don't put all zeros in, then what do you do to put the Social Security? Well, we just put on their C explanatory statement. That's all we do. So, but anyway, I'm not going to go into all the details on this. It takes time to do that, but yeah, we just direct them to the explanatory statement. That's how we do that. But okay, let's see here. It says, I've seen a document issued by the IRS stating that they aggressively go after people who claim that they are sovereign state citizens. Yeah, I don't know that term. And they specifically mention people who use the 14th Amendment. What is the risk level one could expect by going to this route? We've had no clients dealt with the IRS and all that. What I recommend is, if you take our class and you understand the terms United States, okay, the IRS is spot on. Here's what they don't do. You can't be a federal citizen and say that you're a state citizen and have bad paperwork without the IRS giving you a spanking, okay? If you are filling out paperwork as a federal citizen, you'll have a tax liability and obligation, okay? So we're not talking about someone who makes a claim. That's why we do this process with the U.S. State Department, so that you have facts and evidence to support your claim. You're not just stating a claim. You'll have evidence demonstrating that you are not a federal 14th Amendment citizen. So I agree with the IRS and what they say. If you look at them, they'll say the taxpayer's doing this, the taxpayer's doing this, and that's it. You have to understand who a taxpayer is from Title 26, Section 7701, and look up what a taxpayer is, one who owes a tax. So that's right. So no taxpayers can do this process because they're federal citizens. And the IRS does make reference to their citizen is a 14th Amendment citizen, okay? So IRS uses the 14th Amendment to establish their citizenship. So it's not that we're mentioning it. They're mentioning it. I have it in writing from the State Department that they use the 14th Amendment. They say literally in the top paragraph, a U.S. citizen is a citizen subject to the jurisdiction thereof. And they reference the 14th Amendment. The courts in New Hampshire define U.S. citizenship by the 14th Amendment. The IRS defines U.S. citizenship by the 14th Amendment. That's not our claim. That's their claim. Okay. Whether you're claiming that is another matter. Okay. If you fill out a driver's license as a U.S. citizen, you may be claiming to be a 14th Amendment citizen. I know if you fill out a passport application and you sign the oath without an explanatory statement about the oath or something, you are claiming under penalty of perjury that you are a 14th Amendment citizen. Those are facts. Okay. But I don't know the sovereign. We don't use that word sovereign. Doesn't show up in our paperwork. Okay. The people are sovereign, but we don't claim to be sovereign. Okay. Sovereign just means separate and distinct. It means really, it's nothing more than that. Okay. The people are sovereign with respect to each other. The Almighty is sovereign with respect to his creation, separate and distinct. Okay. Kings are sovereign to each other. Okay. Governments are sovereign with respect to each other. That's all sovereign means. It doesn't mean anything more than that. It's not some special thing here. So what's the risk level? Do this? 0. Do bad paperwork, risk level goes up. So I don't recommend you do bad paperwork. People will deal with the IRS as they exit. But again, we've had no clients that have done these process that the IRS has come along and in a retaliation type of a thing and said, hey, here's a thing. We have had people who have come to us afterwards or still want to think of doing a revocation election, and the IRS has charged them $5,000 for a frivolous return. Both one for the wife and one for the husband. That'd be a total of $10,000 for that frivolous return. So anyway, that's what I know. So yeah, so it's pretty risk-free. Can you elaborate on what sorts of issues you may have to deal with while you exit? Well, it depends on what you're doing for work. If you're employed, you're going to need to talk to the company and find out if you can contract with them, and do things that way. That would be one. That's a significant thing for people. But for if people have a corporation, they may have to shut that down, do things in their private, personal capacity. That may be a learning curve or doing something different. But no, I mean, usually if sometimes people haven't filed for a long time. If you haven't filed in a long time, it's not going to be an issue. If IRS, if they come looking for your return, you should do a proper response to that, in which you tell them that you incurred no tax liability for a particular year, and not being a U.S. citizen or resident alien. We have and do still help clients like today, or a client send me some IRS paperwork they got, and so we'll write a response to that that'll be congruent with their passport stuff and all that. So we always tell the truth. We always bring it to the light. We don't hide or sneak or do things under the table. None of that stuff is what we do. We only do things out in the open, in the light. You don't have to hide or ignore any of that. We don't recommend ignoring IRS. So people will come, into our community with IRS issues, but it's not. It's not. This process is not uncomfortable, or it's a peaceful process. It's boring paperwork. All we're doing is administrative corrections. You don't have to look for permission or get their agreement. You just are going to declare things to be true and correct, and that's pretty much how it works out. Hopefully, I answered that question for you. Let's see. Any other questions? Yeah. So let's see. Let me see if there's. Let me make sure that. Let me see. Okay, I want to make sure I don't miss any of these questions online. After receiving the updated passport, how can we verify the change? We did that one already. That's good. All right. Yeah, good questions on the YouTube channel. So, All right. Let's see. So yeah. So the only thing coming up will be um that talk and on Sunday for the prayer. Now next week we'll be doing the call. Hopefully on like I said, I'll be in Florida. We'll be doing that on Wednesday unless something important comes up that I'm not aware of. I don't think there is because we're going to be dealing with the courts. That's usually during the day, so we should be good for next Wednesday on. Um, and so that'll be good. Can I talk about the trust services you offer? Sure. Um, One of the things that we do when you're going over, um, the section 7701 from Title 26 or the tax code, you'll see in there they talk about trust and estates, and you should read that and see how the federal government deals with trusts and being in their jurisdiction. If someone is a federal citizen and they create a trust, that trust is in federal jurisdiction. And anybody who puts a tax ID number or an EIN or something on their trust, that trust will also be in federal jurisdiction, subject to lien or levy, whatever. So that's in there for them. Many times, clients being concerned as they come out want to set up a trust so they can move their property into trust so they don't own it and they can possess it and all that, and then certainly control it as the managing trustee. But we do that for our clients. Every one of our trusts have adversarial trustees. That would be a trustee that is not family, friends, that kind of thing. There are people who have done the passport process well. I know those people personally, and so they're there to help secure the property if anything should be happen to the client or whatever that is. These are people that I trust implicitly, and then they're what we call adversarial trustees. We have more adversarial trustees than the managing trustees. That way, if IRS was pursuing in some capacity, we would even remove the client from the trust. Now, it might not change their living in any way or whatever they're doing, but the bottom line is um, we definitely protect the property from anyone that might pursue the trustee, the managing trustee, which would be the client or whatever. So usually what happens with that, a client will sign up for that, and then they will talk about how they're going to use it. It might be a trust organization, or it may be just a trust that's going to hold property. If you don't have title to the property, you can't have a mortgage and move your property into trust. Um, Not unless you had assets in the trust and you purchased the property with the trust in that regard. That'd be the only way, because typically the bank owns the property if they do, and so they would move into foreclosure if you were looking to secure the property as a move it away from collateral for them. So if you own your property outright, then you can move. You have the authority to move it into trust, or other property. It could be a car, things like that. Things that have title, you have to change the title. That means that as the managing trustee, you have to write to the state to get the title changed. All those things are necessary. Other property you can just list. So, and this is a foreign, irrevocable contractual trust. Our foreign address is out of Oslo, Norway. And so we have an agent there, and we utilize that address for our foreign trust. But when we use that address, see, we're showing it as foreign, and yet we're not concerned about whether it's outside of America. We're concerned that it's outside the District of Columbia. All the states are foreign to the District of Columbia. So that's the real foreign, but most Americans, most people, when they think foreign, they're thinking outside of America. They're not thinking foreign with respect to each other. All the states are foreign to each other. All the states are foreign to the United States or the District of Columbia. All the District of Columbia is the federal government is foreign to other foreign countries, and they're foreign to each other. Domestic is internal in the sense of whatever jurisdiction that is, and so those are juxtaposed each other, foreign and domestic. You know? So we do up a trust document. We mail it, email it to the client. They read it through. Once the trust document is proper, has no errors, and it's the way that the client likes, then we mail the trust out to them. They get notarized their portion of the trust. It gets mailed back to me. I facilitate the other trustees to sign off on the trust document has multiple signatures, power of attorney, a number of other things, and then we put that into a trust package, um, and create the trust document, and then we put that into a digital format, and then we send it to the client, and then they possess it, and then they'll it has supporting paperwork for the life of the trust. So that's all there. Do I recommend one trust, separate trust for house, each car? But it's up to you. I know each trust is, we do trust for $3,000. 35? No, I think it's $3,000 per trust. Yeah. And so there are people that would put one house in each trust. It's not like a trust can't be sued, okay, but there'd have to be cause, okay. Um, but the idea is that sometimes people will diversify and put property into different trusts and all. Sometimes someone will create a trust organization that they use for work and such as that. And then sometimes they'll just have another trust that just holds property. And a trust is only a trust is active if there's property in it on some level. One of the ways that you disempower the trust, if you will, is by taking the property out of it. Then it's just an empty shell, if you will, and it can be empty and stay empty until something is settled into it. Then it's animated and is active and is being used. We don't recommend that if the trust doesn't have to have its own bank account. You have to ask yourself, what do you want a bank account for? Because the managing trustee has full authority to commingle assets or whatever it is. It's not a statutory trust. He has no obligations of keeping things separate because the managing trustee is going to have no tax liability. Of course, the trust would have no tax liability, so it doesn't matter. What's written in the trust document is the way it is. So that's just part of um, can a brokerage investment account be inside that trust? I don't know how can you set up a brokerage investment as long as the paperwork is correct? Um, I think what you're saying is the other way around, is that can a trust set up a brokerage and investment account? Um, unless you're saying the opposite of that, and I wouldn't know how to do that. But typically, this is the same thing. Is the brokerage or investment account are going to be looking for? They're going to be requesting a W-9. Your trust has no tax numbers. It's not in federal jurisdiction, so you would say to them that it has no tax ID. Now, the trustee would have a certificate of foreign status. You may still fill out a W-9 and showing that you're exempt. It is a foreign irrevocable trust. Now, they may want to consider the trust as like a resident alien, but that's not the case. So you're going to want to understand what you have truly, so that you're able to communicate to these other entities that have filing requirements, and that you don't. So our classes on the alignment workshop and the 1445 class, that's a workshop that we deal with. Dealing with real estate transactions, but it's very similar to this stuff if you're setting up investment stuff and paperwork, including KYC in cryptocurrency exchanges and all that. You have to have proper paperwork. It's less important that if you were to give out the social security number verbally or whatever, say, yeah, here's my social security number. That's not a problem as much as having bad paperwork. You cannot fill out bad paperwork. It'll be to your demise because you're signing that stuff under penalty of perjury. You have to always remain outside that jurisdiction. Hopefully that makes sense to you. Okay. All right. Anybody else? I appreciate your question. So we have to take the 1440 class alignment in order to get a trust set up? No. No, you do have to do the passport process in order to get into the trust. Same thing goes along with our debt discharge clients. We have a lot of people that are interested in debt discharge, but they have to become clients first. I can't afford, if you will, to have them do that work with the banks. If they're federal citizens still, doesn't work for me, doesn't work for them. They'll create a tax liability for themselves. We don't want that. So, but the workshops, once you start your passport process, either by the workshop or the full passport process, you'll immediately have access to those workshops and get things done. And but as far as the trust, um, once you begin the passport process, you can sign up for a trust, and we can get working on it right away for you. It's not a problem. You can do those together, if you will. But usually we'll take care of getting your paperwork going for the passport stuff, and then we'll move forward on your trust. So hopefully that makes sense. Yeah. Um, Coolness. Can I check on the? Can you check on the trust back? The price is $3,000 for the trust, unless it says something different on the website. But I think that's the price. Yeah. Um, so anyway, all right. Well, listen, you guys have been awesome. Thank you so much for being on this call. We do have, some of you are online, and then we have some of you live on YouTube. Well, would I recommend starting a trust fund overseas? I would have any opinion on whether I would recommend it. So, having a trust in another jurisdiction, you may be subject to a different jurisdiction. Uh, you don't have to do things overseas. If you don't have a tax liability, you can do the trust anywhere you like. We do have a trust that has trustees in foreign country. You can do that. Depends on what you want and what you need. Um, but you guys on YouTube, thanks for being on. If you're watching this and it's recorded, please like and subscribe. That obviously helps us in some fashion. I don't know how. We will have, typically, we're going to have, once we get some of our assistants and get our office back and going again, we're going to set up a lot of these videos onto our BitChute account and other platforms that we have. If you know somebody that would like to do a podcast, we'd be up for that. Be glad to do an interview or be able to talk to somebody in your community. If you have 10 people in your area that would like to take the state citizenship class live, you can always reach out and set that up, and we'd be glad to come there and do that. And one of the benefits of doing that live is we could do passport process live for people while we're there. That is available if you'd like, if you want to have a more intimate work together. So anyway, that's available. Thanks so much. I appreciate you guys. Let me see if we can say adios with respect to the YouTube.